Howdy folks, I hope everyone is doing well. I hope everyone down in Florida fared the hurricane alright. Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina, and wherever else it hit. I got a fair amount of rain from it last night myself. I noticed a little bit out in the yard today of debris and whatnot. There's a piece of tar paper blown into my yard from somewhere. I couldn't find anywhere that it might have come off of my house yet. I ain't looked extensively, but that's not what I'm here to talk about. What I'm here to talk about is people's understanding of words. And one word specifically. And I want to talk about this specific word because it's used so many times in the Bible that it sometimes appears that it can mean something different. But it doesn't, and it does. It's a subjective word. You just have to understand the perspective from which it's being used or applied. Now, that word is evil. Now, everyone thinks of evil in a very specific context. And that context is they think that it means that evil is anything that's against good. And that is not entirely inaccurate. But again, good is a subjective word. Although I'm not here to talk about good, it's going to be near impossible to talk about evil without talking about good. Because yes, they're opposites, but they're subjective. And by no means am I saying that Yahweh is evil and not good and, you know, stuff like that. I'm talking about the word that you need to understand. So, all that being said, try to make this video flow a little bit. Look in the book of 1 Samuel or 1 Kings. I'm not sure. I think that those are two names for the same set of books, Samuel and Kings. But anyway, 1 Samuel, where the Philistines stole the ark from Israel, and they carried it and they set it up in their temple of Dagon. And you know, the first night the idol or the statue of Dagon fell over, and the second night the statue fell over and his head and his hands broke off, and or his face and his hands broke off. I don't remember exactly what scripture says, but aside from that, the Philistines got hit with, or at least the 5 lords of the Philistines, maybe all of them, got hit with hemorrhoids, and then there was a plague of mice on all the Philistine cities, or Philistine cities, however you pronounce it. And one of the 5 lords, or the 5 lords, came to a prophet or something or another, not one of Yahweh's prophets, I don't think. I have to go back and listen to it again, because this was just a very cursory overview. But one or all 5 of the lords of the Philistines went to a prophet and asked him, why has this evil come on us? And the prophet told him, because you stole the ark from Israel, and what you have to do is you have to get the ark back to Israel, but you also have to make a trespass offering. So, and what the trespass offering was, they had to hammer out some golden hemorrhoids and some golden mice. And I don't remember if they put them in it or if they just put them on the cart with it, but they sent all that back to Israel. So what the Philistines had asked was, why has this evil befallen us? Okay, well, from an outside observer's point of view, especially an outside observer who was a servant of Yahweh, or is a servant of Yahweh, they would not see those things as evil. They would see them as justified. They would see them as a form of justice. So is justice evil? No. But from the Philistines' perspective, the things that was happening to them was evil because it was against them. And most people, whether they're evil according to Yahweh's word or not, do not view themselves as being evil. So anything that is against them is evil, and anything that they agree with or is for them, or good for them, good to them, is good, even if it's something evil. Take greedy people, people that are after money, and that's all that they're after. And they see getting money by any means necessary is a good thing. Whether they're cheating people to get it, or stealing, or just making deals that are good for them and bad for other folks, or overcharging, or whatever. However they get it, they see it as a good thing, because that's their goal to accomplish. But anyone who knows Yahweh's truth, cheating and stealing and lying and stuff like that, those things are not good. They're evil, and we know that. So if you go back to the episode in Exodus where Moses was up in the mountains for 40 days and 40 nights, I think that's what it says. I know it was 40 days. All the rest of Israel, they're not in the mountain with Moses, so they don't know what's going on. And the people come to Aaron and tell him, fashion us a golden calf to carry before us so we can go back to Egypt, where we had plenty to eat and all of that stuff. And Aaron fashions the calf, and then he says tomorrow is a feast to Yahweh, and they are trying to use this golden calf idol in part of a feast to Yahweh. And then Moses comes down from the mountain, and I'm not sure if he come down first and went back up, or if he had the conversation with Yahweh before he came down, where Yahweh says that he's going to destroy all of Israel, and he's going to make a great nation of Moses. And then Moses replies, don't do this evil thing to your people, because Yahweh calls them Moses' people, and Moses calls them Yahweh's people. So, Moses says to Yahweh, says, don't do this evil thing to your people. And he's interceding or pleading on behalf of the people when he says don't do this evil thing. Was he calling Yahweh evil? Absolutely not. Was he saying that Yahweh was going to do something that was evil? No. What Yahweh does is righteous, because Yahweh is righteous. He is righteousness. He cannot do anything unrighteous. So, what he was going to do was judge the people, but he wasn't really going to do that. He was using episode to make Moses remember the covenants and whatnot that Yahweh had made and promised to Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. You know, and so he was reconfirming those covenants again. So the word evil is subjective, and it depends on the perspective of the people who are using it and the context in which it's being used. So there are people in the world today who run around and talk about how evil those of us who are born again are, because we want to control women's bodies, or we want to control what people do in their bedrooms and stuff like that. And the fact is that's just not true. I don't want to control anybody's body or anyone's body. And I don't want to control anyone's bedroom. I want them to control their body and them to control what goes on in their bedroom under Yahweh's leadership and instruction. But they call us evil because we don't want them to murder unborn children. You know, how is it an evil thing to want to save the children alive? I mean, how is that possibly evil? Just as an example. But again, it comes back to words and understanding them. And I'm not trying to diverge out into more words in a longer conversation or monologue, as it is. But essentially what those who are in favor of abortion have tried to do is they've tried to redefine what a human is. And part of that redefinition is that a fertilized egg is, once it starts dividing and developing and whatnot, well, it's just a group of cells. It's not a human yet. It's not a human until it's born. Okay, and I'm not here trying to redefine the wheel or trying to throw out what the definition of a human is or anything like that. I'm just simply saying that that cluster of cells has a distinctive DNA pattern that is totally unlike the mother's and totally unlike the father's. Yes, it's made up of the mama's and the daddy's DNA, but it's different. So it's a separate person, separate individual. So I'm not trying to control the woman's body. I'm trying to protect the child's body. But again, going back to words, you know, it's through the changing of words that Lucifer deceived Eve to begin with. You know, the first thing he did was he questioned what Yahweh said. Then he instilled doubt in Eve's mind by asking her if that's what he really said. And you'll notice that Eve actually added something to it. Well, then he goes on further in the conversation to just outright deny the validity of what Yahweh said, you know, by trying to change the meaning of it. Because Yahweh said, on the day you eat it, you will surely die. Right? That's exactly what it says in the Bible. So, what does Lucifer say? Oh no, you won't die. You will become like God, knowing good from evil. So see, technically, in that statement, Lucifer hasn't lied completely. You know, they didn't die at the moment or in the day that they ate from the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. They died later because of sin, but they also knew or gained the knowledge of good and evil through that act of disobedience. So Lucifer told them a partial truth, but it was a whole lie. And the way he did it was through the twisting and changing of words. Sorry, I don't know if that sun is causing any problems with the camera image or not. So it's important that we understand all the words that we read and hear and use, specific or especially the words that we use. You don't want to use words incorrectly and whatnot. That's what our culture does for the most part, is most people don't know what they're saying when they're talking, or they don't understand fully and completely what they're saying when they're talking, because they don't understand the words that they're using. And there's more to understanding a word than just simply knowing the definition or knowing the way that it's commonly used. To give an example, there's a common saying that goes around, and almost everyone says it wrong, or almost everyone I hear saying it says it wrong. They say, "I could care less." That's wrong. What they're trying to say is they absolutely do not care about something. Alright, and the proper way to say that is, I couldn't care less. As in, I could not care less. You know? So by saying that I could care less, what I'm actually saying is that I do care about this thing, because I have to care about it to some degree in order to be able to care less about it. And I'm not picking on people that say that. I'm just simply saying that they're not listening to what they're saying, and they're not thinking about what they're saying. And I realize that that's a very, not subjective, it's just an example. It's okay, a very nitpicky, that's what I was looking for. It may seem like it's very nitpicky, and it's not nitpicky in the broad sense. It is in the specific sense of that particular saying, because yes, I know what they mean when they say it. But in the broad sense, it's exactly what I just said, you know, and not to try to be repetitive, but you have to know what you're saying when you talk about stuff. Otherwise, you're not properly conveying what you're trying to. And in some instances, you may even wind up saying the exact opposite of what you're intending to say. So that's really the gist of understanding the word evil there. I realize I've diverged from that just a little bit, but you know, I've stayed on topic in the broad sense of understanding what you're saying. And this is very similar to another video that I put out, and you know, the title of that video, I'll link it in the description, is do you know what you're really saying? So I'm going to close with that. Remember Proverbs 18:13, which is very, very applicable to the topic covered in this video and the other one that I'm going to link in the description. And Acts chapter 17 verses 10 and 11, which reminds us that even after we hear the speaker speak about Scripture, or anything for that matter, that we are supposed to go and investigate those things ourselves and not just take someone's word for it. And 2 Timothy chapter 2 verse 15, which says basically the same thing, you know, study to show yourself approved before Yahweh, a workman that need not be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. I think I got it out of order. And Proverbs 18:21, life and death is in the power of the tongue, you know, which is another specific verse that applies specifically to this video and the one that's going to be linked in the description. So, all that being said, I hope to see each and every one of you in Yahweh's kingdom when we come to it. And Yahweh bless.